The US federal budget deficit is projected to be $955 billion in fiscal year 2019. But according to a line of economic thinking called Modern Monetary Theory, or MMT, that number's not something to worry about. Politicians have traditionally compared national budgets to household budgets because it's rhetorically convenient. And according to that line of thought, having a deficit is inherently bad because it means that you're spending more than you're bringing in. However, according to modern monetary theory, a government budget is nothing like a household budget because the government can print its own money and therefore can't really go bankrupt. Proponents of MMT argue that the current discussion about federal budgets unhealthily puts the rich at the center of American policymaking. If you're looking for how to pay for policies, look to the Treasury, not the rich. Though conventional wisdom says high national debt is a bad thing, MMT offers a different approach. Government debt is just the money the government spends into the economy and didn't tax back. It's a historical record of all the times the Treasury made a net deposit into the economy, or in other words, spent more than it taxed out. And the Treasury bonds are the difference between those. Does that mean the government can spend like crazy without ramifications? No. Proponents of the MMT accept that deficits can both be too large and too small, depending on the slack of the economy at a given time. Instead, MMT economists focus not so much on the magnitude of deficits, but more on the purpose of them. For example, the US added $1.5 trillion to the deficit over 10 years with the 2017 tax cuts. With the same dollar figure, we could have wiped out student debt or launched massive infrastructure improvements. In other words, you can have the same budgetary outcome, but very different economic outcomes in terms of the potential to boost long-term growth and productivity, impacts on the distribution of income, and so forth. But what about debt crises like those in Italy, Spain, or Greece? According to MMT economists, those countries' predicament is not a lesson for America. The European debt crisis happened because those countries borrowed and spent in a currency that they did not print themselves. Conversely, in 1995, before any of these countries started using the euro, they had debt-to-GDP ratios as high as 120%. But who can remember talking about a debt crisis then? Italy was paying debt in lira, so every time an obligation came due, they could pay on time, in full. Where else was the lira going to come from but the Italian government? When it comes down to it, views on deficits and debt can be generational. The 1970s are still a fresh memory for some people, with long lines to fill up the tank and out-of-control inflation. But millennials see their future with the outrageous cost of college, climate change, and healthcare, and they take it seriously. Big threats leave millennials open and willing to take on ambitious solutions.